next version of the My Smart Garden series. In this particular video, we're going to now start running our containers. In the previous video, we had a quick explanation of, or summary rather, of the source code that basically supplies inside the containers and the apps that are inside the containers. But this time, we're actually going to run the containers inside the smart device and see how it interfaces with the different smart appliances, etc. So let's go ahead and get started. If you notice here, I'm already kind of interfaced inside of the device. I'm already connected. These are the three containers that we actually explained earlier: Garden API image, the moisture container, and temperature container. This is the primary container that has all of the data. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's just make sure that we don't have anything running. Okay, no containers are running. Let's go ahead and clear any dangling containers that we have that may cause any kind of disruption of installing. And we're all set there. Okay, so now that we have clarified that we do have everything in place, let's go ahead and see what we got installed. Okay, here's our local registry that shows the 2 and 3 containers that I explained above. We're going to take each one of these and we're going to install them and run them container by container. In this case, we're going to go ahead and start with the root system, which is the Node.js instance, and then we're going to go from there. We'll give it a second to run. Okay. Alright, so now this container is running. Let's go ahead and check the status. Give it a second. Okay, status is operational, up 15 seconds. So now what's going to happen is this IP address is now going to host data. As explained before in the previous video, where we called it get data API call, we should be getting data now. Okay, so now this is the basic default data that comes from that container. Temperature is set to the default level of 70. The data array is empty, but we do have a success. Let's pull this out of the way. Now we're going to start the second primary container, which is the temperature container. Okay, and now, as I'll kind of briefly explain some of these Docker commands we're doing here. So Docker run is the typical way to start a container. I'm setting up the IP address within the Docker instance as 172.17.02. As you notice, it is different than this address because I'm actually mapping a IP call from the local area connection IP to the connection on Docker. I also am using 8080 as well, which is directly compatible with what we're calling in the browser. This is the unique name that is prior to it. This privileged item is basically set to make sure that the Docker container can interface to a local device GPIO. It is required. So anytime you want to interface with it to do different things, you have to have that attribute installed. The next item here, which is basically the next thing we're going to run, this is the next container which has the temperature Python container running. Okay, so this also has the same attributes, but it's just a little bit different, a lot less complicated. As soon as this gets running, we'll check the status, and then we'll also do a data call. One second as it finishes, it'll take a couple seconds. Okay, do Docker PS to get our status. Okay, now we have 2 Docker containers running. We have Moline Garden container and Moline temperature container running separately, and they have their individual names set up here. Let's switch back to our browser. we should now have a different value in here because it's now getting direct data from temperature. Okay, now as you can see, we now have range inside the container saying it's 89 degrees. Okay, switch back. Now we're going to install our first product container. Now this time, we're going to customize part of it to correlate with the specific GPIOs that we need to use. We'll call this one Onion because that is going to be on GPIO 7. Okay, so now it's on GPIO 7, and let's make sure we do have that for sure correctly set up. Right, okay. So now we're going to go ahead and hit enter, and we should interface to GPIO 7, which will start feeding the data array with products. Okay, let's check our status. Oops, wrong command. Docker ps. Okay, now we have one moisture container that is operational, and we should get results inside a browser now. Okay, first results back. We have something for the onion, and it is considered dry because it probably hasn't had water since this morning, so it is probably dried up in the dirt. So now let's set up our next container. Okay, this one is going to be, let's check our products list here. This is going to be romaine lettuce. Oops, not that one. Let's misspell romaine. Okay. And this is going to be GPIO 8. Check our status here in a second. Okay, let's just run the next one because we'll just check the statuses on the rest one after that because they're both they're both lettuce products. So we're going to now just kind of switch to do the same thing. But okay, iceberg. Same with this one here. Okay, and this one is going to be GPIO 9. Give it a second. Okay, that is now ready. Let's get a status on everything. Okay, so now we have 3 moisture containers. and we have one temperature container, one garden container. So we should have a set of 3 items in our data array and one temperature array. Okay, and here we go. So now you can tell that the romaine lettuce is wet, the iceberg lettuce is wet, and so is the onions. So we have 2 products that actually don't need water, but we have one product that does need water. Temperature is at 88 degrees. So now what will happen is, going forward, is the main container will be basically processing all this data in periodic events to basically water at different parts of the day depending on the temperature and the different specifications per each product. So that's part of basically the conclusion on these different types of sensors. These are very basic sensors and for the most part are very primitive. The next thing that we're going to accomplish next on the next few videos is we're going to start the irrigation on each different product, and then we're also going to start the object modeling. The object modeling will basically start with the IBM cloud, and then we'll start adding some other cloud elements in there as well. Please stay tuned to this channel and let me know if you have any questions.